Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is the morning after UFC 299. I've already done my full event breakdown. Go ahead and watch it if you haven't already. I'm going to be giving you the fights that I want to see. Now, admittedly, a few of these, we're going to have to wait for the loser and the winner of a few other matches. So I preface that later in the video for each of these matches that do require that. But most of these, due to how the divisions are right now and how champions are right now, and what other UFC fighters have been saying, we kind of have a straightforward shot for a lot of the key matchups that are going to be made tonight in the main event. However, I'm going to be starting from Romulus de Spain. Who should he fight next? I wish I could give a super fun answer on this. I'm just going to say victim. Yes, his next opponent is going to be a victim. Because I don't want to rush Romulus de Spain too quickly into the UFC. And something bad happening. We have not seen how good his wrestling is. We know that he is more athletic, a better striker, and overall just built better than just about every other heavyweight that we've seen. However, one thing I will say, heavyweight is incredibly top heavy. So when we have a prospect that looks really good when he's fighting cans, we don't know how they're going to be when they get into that top 5 picture. And because of how the heavyweight division is right now, that we're in kind of like this passing of the torch moment. Stipe Miocic, John Jones are leaving the division. People like Tom Aspinall and Gelton Almeida and Curtis Blades are going to be at the top of that division. He's coming up in a good time. Romulus de Spain, take your time with some unranked cans. And if you can win against another can, we're going to put you against Mohammed Usman. That's the name that I'm going to give you. I say the plan to make, Romulus de Spain against a victim. Make this quick. Make it a quick turnaround because we know he ain't hurt. Make him fight Mohammed Usman. He'll make Mohammed Usman into a victim. That way, he can get a bit more name value because Mohammed Usman's famous because he's brothers with Kamaru Usman. And then, later on in the year, we can do Romulus de Spain versus... Honestly, it's kind of a dream matchup for me, but Alexander Volkov would be fun, a Tai Tuivasa would be fun. How about this? Beats Mohammed Usman, then he could fight the loser of Tai Tuivasa and Tybura. Quick, I want to give you some good names. Next up, Pedro Munoz. Pedro Munoz lost to Kyler Phillips last night. However, he did not look terrible. Kyler Phillips just looked great. It wasn't a concerning performance by Pedro Munoz. However, the two matchups that I have for him is Dominic Cruz if he wants to have a retirement fight. I don't know. I never know when UFC fighters want to retire because one second, the moment that they look like they're not going to win a belt anytime soon, that's when they retire. And the other moment, they're down to fight 15 more fights past their due date as Tony Ferguson. Pedro Munoz looks like he got a little bit more, brain cells left, and his chin is relatively decent. I mean, he was taking some blows from Kyler Phillips. If you want to do a retirement fight, if you want to do a legacy fight, go against Dominic Cruz. Dominic Cruz is in a place where he hasn't fought in 2 years, coming off a horrific KO by Chito Vera. Or if you want to stay competitive, we can put you against Ricky Simón. Another ranked opponent, you're ranked 13, you just lost your ranking to Kyler Phillips. If you're still ranked, you can get back into it against Ricky Simón. He doesn't have a fight coming up. Or you can do Dominic Cruz, he's also ranked. Let's see what we can get. Those are two fights that I want to see for Pedro Munoz. Next up, Kyler Phillips, the winner of this bout. I say Rob Font. Rob Font seems like a fun fight. Actually, no, let me give you another one for Pedro Munoz, Adrian Yanez. Adrian Yanez, Ricky Simón, or Cruz if he wants to retire. Kyler Phillips, you could do Rob Font. That's admittedly a really fun fight. Rob Font's a really great striker. I feel like it's I hate to say it, Rob Font's a journeyman. Fighters have to fight Rob Font to get into that championship corridor. Kyler Phillips wants to get into that championship corridor. He is going into his prime. He is, I believe, 28 or 29 years of age. If he wants to make that run, he's going to have to fight Rob Font at some point. I say let's do it right now. Let's get him into that picture. If he beats up Rob Font, then we can do a Song Yadong based off another matchup that is going to be coming later. Next up, I'm trying to go through these, make this interesting. RDA. Rafael Dos Anjos looked good in his fight against Mateusz Gamrot. Mateusz Gamrot did not look great until the second round of that fight. RDA still has a chance at 155. If you remember, after the Rafael Fiziev fight, he said he didn't want to fight in that division anymore, which is kind of ironic considering Fiziev said that he wants to be in a 165-pound weight class. No, it's a weird thing. RDA, come back down to lightweight. The two matchups that I have for you is Drew Dober and Bobby Green. Now, I know Bobby Green's fighting Jim Miller. You can fight the winner of Jim Miller versus Bobby Green if Jim Miller loses and Bobby Green, just wants to keep on fighting. We'll see how that turns out. If you don't really care on waiting, because I don't think you took a crazy amount of damage in that fight, do go against Drew Dober. Fun fight. Drew Dober had a hard time fighting Renato Moicano. Renato Moicano kept him on his back basically the entirety of the fight. Drew Dober coming off a loss. You're coming off a loss. Similar-esque loss. Fairly disappointing performances. Go against each other, and we get a winner. RDA versus Drew Dober, or if you want to get more star power, Bobby Green. That's what I say. Mateusz Gamrot, the winner. Who do I want him to fight? The problem with Mateusz Gamrot and matching him up is he's in a spot high up in that weight class where we already gave him an opponent that is ranked far beneath him. Like it or not, he won. We have to give him an opponent that is ranked either near him or above him. And I say you give him the loser of Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. I know it would be a rematch between Arman Tsarukyan and Drew Dober if Arman were to lose. However, that fight was so close, you can argue doing a rematch because people think it was a fluke anyways. I say if Gamrot can get another fluke win, it's not a fluke. So I'm going to say Mateusz Gamrot versus the loser of Arman Tsarukyan and Charles Oliveira. He also has expressed interest in fighting Charles Oliveira, but they're booked up right now. So that's what I say you do. Have him fight the loser. Gilbert Burns. Who does he fight? I only have one opponent for him. He lost to a prospect. People that are saying that this completely disqualifies him from being in the Hall of Fame, I've actually heard that comment from actual MMA news outlets. That because Gilbert Burns lost to Jack Della Maddalena, that completely disqualifies him from being in the Hall of Fame. Listen, if he was in the running for the Hall of Fame, I don't think losing to Jack Della Maddalena disqualifies you. Either he was never in the running or he is going to be. At this point, he's done a lot. Gilbert Burns, who's city fight? I say Sean Brady. Honestly. Sean Brady expressed interest in fighting Ian Gary. I think they're going to do Ian Gary versus Colby Covington. That does well. Colby Covington wants to fight Ian Gary. Ian Gary wants to fight Colby. They're booked up. JDM already has an opponent that he's expressed interest in, and I think they're going to make it happen. That's later on in the video. I say you do Burns versus Sean Brady. Stylistically very similar. Burns is looking somewhat chinny. I'm not going to lie to you. A little chinny. He was getting pieced up. He was getting cracked on the feet with JDM. Give him somebody that isn't known to be a good striker. Give him somebody who's going to give him a grappling match. Gilbert Burns versus Sean Brady. Book it. Song Yadong. Who do I book Song Yadong against? Song Yadong was the promising prospect that we put up against Petr Yan coming out of China, who lost. Who said I book him up against? I said this in the video a few days ago. I say we have two choices here. UFC. Come on. Come closer. Let me tell you. You either book him against the winner of Cody Garbrandt versus Figueiredo at UFC 300. If you want to keep him in that running, if you want to give Figgy a fun fight going up, make that a fight night main event, UFC Singapore, that'd be pretty good, right? Or if you want to sacrifice him, do Song Yadong versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Do it, please. I know Corey's kind of in a weird spot, admittedly, so maybe you do Figgy versus Song Yadong, and you do Umar Nurmagomedov fighting against Umar against Corey Sandhagen. I just had a brain fart there. You do, whoever you don't do for the other person. That's what I'm saying. Because I don't think Corey's going to be fighting next for the title, and we've been getting some headlines. I wanted to get this video out there quickly before more come out. Next up, Petr Yan. Who should he be fighting next? Petr Yan versus Chito Vera is the fight to make. Make that a 5-round main event of a fight night. Please do it. That's one of my my two most anticipated fights for this division, honestly, were always Petr Yan versus Chito Vera and Sean O'Malley versus Corey Sandhagen. Give me one of those, UFC. Petr Yan is now in the championship running. Get him back into that rotation. He's not going to have to fight Merab. He's not going to have to fight Aljamain Sterling. Let's do Petr Yan, Chito Vera. If you don't want to do it a fight night main event, fine. When we go to Abu Dhabi, Petr Yan, 3-round feature fight of the Abu Dhabi card against Chito Vera. Please, UFC. It gives Chito Vera a chance to rebound, and it gives Petr Yan a chance to get into that championship picture. Let him recover. Let's do it. Next up, Michael Venom Page. Who do I put him up against? Michael Venom Page versus Wonderboy is the fight to make. Wonderboy is ranked above Kevin Holland, beat Kevin Holland, so is Michael Venom Page. Stylistic matchup. It's a very fun fight. I think you could book this anywhere. Fight night main event for the fans. Put it on a card. It has to be a pay-per-view though. Like, you cannot. Like, that's all I'm saying. Michael Venom Page versus Wonderboy. Please, UFC. And if anybody's wondering where Kevin Holland is in this video, Kevin Holland is they just put him in against any fighter that they want to put him up against. I guess you can put him up against the winner of Vicente Luque versus Joaquin Buckley. I know he's already beaten Buckley, but if Buckley beats Vicente Luque, we're legitimately in an area where you can justify a rematch. Or if Buckley loses to Vicente Luque, you can do Kevin Holland against the Luque. That's also fun. Gets him back into that running. He took a fun matchup against MVP. Do MVP Wonderboy, Holland against the... It depends how it plays out. Either Vicente Luque or Joaquin Buckley. That's what you can do. JDM, after beating Gilbert Burns, calls out his teammate Shavkat Rakhmonov, and I do think they're going to do it. Why? Ian Gary's going to be fighting Colby Covington. Wonderboy's going to be fighting MVP. Kamaru Usman's kind of in a weird limbo spot, and Bilal Muhammad is going to have to fight Leon Edwards. As much as people are in denial of it, understand that if the UFC doesn't book Bilal Muhammad versus Leon Edwards, rankings legitimately don't matter in this sport anymore. You have to book it. It doesn't even matter who wins anymore. I think Leon's going to beat Bilal. If he does, boom, he now has to get another 15-fight win streak to get in the title running. So, book it now, and in the meantime, do JDM versus Shavkat as a #1 contenders match. If Kamaru Usman wants to come back in here, book Kamaru Usman against Shavkat. That's the only two matchups I can see, and that's the only thing that would mess up JDM. But JDM made a very smart call-out for Shavkat for an easy #1 contenders match. Next up, Benoit Saint Denis. Who do I book him up against? Beneil Dariush. That is the plan. Beneil Dariush is coming off a loss to Arman Tsarukyan, somebody that is now in a #1 contenders match. Dustin Poirier. I don't want to spoil it, but Dustin Poirier is in a great position right now. Very similar positions for Benoit and Beneil. Benoit Saint Denis fighting against Beneil Dariush. Next time we go to... We could go to England. We can go to France. We could book this anywhere. But Benoit Saint Denis versus Beneil Dariush. Please, my only request, do not put this in the Apex. But that's the fight you make. Very stylistically. Beneil's pretty good at anti-wrestling. We saw that in the Gamrot fight. Very good anti-jiu-jitsu and good jiu-jitsu. BSD has good grappling. We saw that in the Dustin Poirier fight and does have power. But when he does get gassed, he can get cracked. And Beneil has the power to crack people. That's a fun fight. Dustin Poirier is going to fight Islam Makhachev. I am telling you this right now. That is my call. It does not matter what happens in the Charles versus Arman Tsarukyan fight. The winner's going to be going into a waiting room. Worst case scenario, the winner of that is going to have to fight the winner of Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway on that same card. Dustin Poirier made a call out for Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev has already expressed interest in fighting in June, International Fight Week. Ali Abdelaziz likes the idea of Dustin Poirier fighting. Islam Makhachev doesn't even want to fight Charles because he doesn't want to do a rematch. He wants to fight a new challenger in the lightweight division, and I respect that. So that leaves either Justin Gaethje or Dustin Poirier. Unless we're going to force Justin Gaethje or Arman Tsarukyan to make a turnaround from UFC 300 to June, we have to do Dustin Poirier against Islam Makhachev, and my prediction is he loses by rear naked choke. I'm just saying. That's my prediction there. But Dustin Poirier against Islam Makhachev, it's all lined up. Ali Abdelaziz says it's a good fight. Islam Makhachev hasn't confirmed it, but due to what he said in the past, it makes sense. And Dustin Poirier wants it. book it. And finally, for our main event, I'm going to surprise and anger a lot of people with this match right here. Sean O'Malley is going to have to fight Merab Dvalishvili. I'm not kidding. Yup, that is what's going to happen. The only way that I could see the UFC skirting around this is if they pull Corey Sandhagen to fight for the title. That is the only way that this fight doesn't happen. But I think they're going to book Merab because Merab is now becoming a fan favorite. It is weird how, and even myself, dude, you could pull up any of my old videos. I was a Merab hater, but I disliked Merab for what happened with the whole Jose Aldo situation. I didn't like how that unfolded. But I've forgiven the man, and now he wants to fight for the title. So yes, let's do it. Merab Dvalishvili is Georgian. Guess who else is Georgian? Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria said that he doesn't want to fight Sean O'Malley until he fights Merab Dvalishvili. And even says, I am not interested in giving Sean O'Malley the main event spot against UFC Spain until he fights my boy Merab. That's what they're going to do. The only other fight that they were going to make was Ilia Topuria because it sold. So now the UFC is in a spot where they kind of have to book O'Malley against Merab, or the UFC is going to do some things that a lot of people aren't going to agree with. But I think that's what you're going to do. Merab is the clear #1 contender. And Sean O'Malley has said that he wants to fight okay, what Sean O'Malley said before this fight is that the next bantamweight he's going to fight is going to be Merab Dvalishvili. He said the next bantamweight, and he prefaced that because he thought Sean O'Malley versus Ilia Topuria in UFC Spain was a huge opportunity and a pretty good chance of happening. But with Ilia saying that's not going to happen and he's not interested in it, O'Malley's kind of trapped. He's already said he has to fight Merab the next bantamweight. You can't do Corey. You can't do Ilia. Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili is the next fight to make. I know I keep saying it, but that is crazy how that turned out. But there you go. Those are all the matchups for all the notable fighters that fought last night. I know there's a few that's missing, Macy Barber being one. Admittedly, I have no clue. Women's MMA matchmaking makes no sense sometimes. Maybe you do. I know Macy Barber said she wants to fight Juliana Pena. Okay. But then it makes sense for her to fight Erin Blanchfield. Like, you see what I'm saying? The UFC doesn't... women's MMA doesn't make much sense to matchmake, so that's why I left that one out of here and kept it simple with fights that absolutely can be made. Tell me what you think in the comment section down below. If there's any matchups that you think I should have made, any matchups that you think are a little janky in this video, put it in the comment section down below. If you like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. It means a lot to me. And I'll see you all next time.